here to discuss all things NRL, AFL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to this State of Origin Game 1 episode of Outside the Sheds. Shedheads, I hope you were able to take in what a lot of people say is maybe the greatest 3.5 to 4 weeks in rugby league around the world, and that is the State of Origin series. I know that I took it in. I don't think I finally finished everything. The great post-game coverage. Didn't get to listen, and I got to cry in my non-alcoholic beverage as I did not hear the voice of rugby league Ray Warren for the first time. But we got to take it in, but I don't think I went to bed or finished up till about 8:30 a.m. my time. So, I had to put in the work. I had to put in the work for this situation. That being said, we can't go into State of Origin, Shedheads, unless we recap last week. So let's jump into that. I can't say that we had a great deal of upset, even though your Shedadamas only went 50%, going 2 for 4. But it started off with the Cowboys versus the Titans. A lot of questions in the air how the Cows were going to play without, having 4 members of the club that were on State of Origin duty. Nanai, Dearden, Holmes, Cotter, they were all gone. So I can't say that I was surprised because I've been so impressed with Todd Payton and the guys that I, and Chatty Townsend was still there to kind of captain and lead the side from the middle. So, no, I wasn't really surprised. But a 32-6 drubbing, I might have been a little bit of surprise there because even though I told you when he first came on to be the coach of the Gold Coast Titans, I was a big fan of Justin Holbrook and the work that he did at St. Helens in the Super League. So far, this has not been transpiring. And, I don't know if sometimes direction is something that we can talk about, that sometimes people just kind of miss things. And I really think their halves pairings has been really, really confusing. And I don't know, when they let Jamal Fogarty go to Canberra, it kind of blew me away because I thought Fogarty really had put and showed his. I'm saying they made him a captain for crime's sake. So I think the Titans are in trouble. I don't know if they're getting ready to go down the road of getting rid of Justin Holbrook, but there's some problems there. There's some real problems there. Next up, we had the Panthers 30, Bulldogs 18. We have a debut of Falls in the half, which was so impressive. This young guy that had played with Nathan Cleary when they were younger, and him finally getting his first start in the NRL, and he kicked some good goals. So that was kind of cool. But you're looking at a Panthers club that's missing 7 Origin players, and they just keep coming. They just keep coming. And I was happy for Josh Adokar that he had the game that he did. I was impressed by the way that he played. I'm going to tell you right now, I told you this last week on last week's episode. Josh Adokar, there's no way that he should not have been in that State of Origin side. But he did come back and he showed by grabbing his jersey after he scored that he was dialed in. And I don't know if I've seen Josh Adokar so adamant in a celebration where it wasn't just kind of jovial jokingness. There was some fire there. But again, you feel bad for the Bulldogs. They try, they work hard, they just don't get any results. And, the Panthers did what the Panthers do. They put them to the sword. So, another victory for the Panthers. Sea Eagles 44, Warriors 12. Even without DCE, Kieran Foran steered the club around the field and guided them to victory. But then you look at the hapless Warriors, and we're getting ready to start talking in depth about the Warriors very, very soon, about a lot of things that transpired there since this game got over with. But we're going to talk about that. But the Sea Eagles Saab was back looking, straight fire as usual. And, I don't know if anybody is expecting a top 4 side. I think a lot of people think Manly's going to battle to get in the top 8 and to stay in the top 8 all season without Turbo. But, with a motivated Jake Trbojevic and with DCE and Foreign, and if Saab starts playing well, you never know. So, Seagulls getting the victory there. Raiders 22, Roosters 16. Without Teddy and JWH, Jared Roya-Hargreaves, there's some problems going on with the Roosters. There's some real problems going on with the Roosters. And that is going to be our top story as we go into a little bit more of a deeper dive into this last week. But the Green Machine, Sticky gets those boys up to play Robbo and the Roosters. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's something that we'll never know about. But, he gets him to play again. The Green Machine kind of rolling over the top, getting that upset, getting back on track. If you look at Canberra, if you look at Ricky, I think Ricky feels this side has something in them that's going to enable them to get in the top 8. And there's no reason, I don't know why anybody would bet against Ricky, but Sticky will get those guys up, and they're playing that way right now. And I think this is a big week coming up where they sit in this upcoming round, which we'll talk about here soon. Now, what I want to start off with when we get in this deeper dive of this last round is a problem that I really see coming out of the Sydney Roosters. And I think it's a big problem. Because without Teddy there in that spine, the Roosters looked just totally out of whack. I guess that's one way you can say it. And if it wasn't for Joey Manu, who I'm telling you, Joey Manu is a beast. He's one of my favorite players in the competition. I don't know if there's tell me another player that plays with a smile on his face almost nonstop. But Joey Manu almost single-handedly kept the Chooks in the match this last weekend. But where my problem is in this dilemma is the halves pairing of Luke Keary, Hollywood Sam Walker. It's not working. And I think deep down, Robbo knows it's not working. You got Luke Keary, to me, who is a number 6. He should be a number 6. He should have stayed at number 6. But Robbo saw this young, possibly great player in Sam Walker that he got to come to the Roosters, right? And sometimes that looks great on paper, but it just doesn't translate onto the field. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. Because Luke Keary is a 6, playing 7. Luke Keary, if you remember when he was playing some dominant footy with the Roosters, it was playing off of Cooper Cronk. Cooper Cronk would guide the team. Luke Keary was able to, create a little bit of magic. Ask Latrell. So when you put him into that 7 to be a guy that's going to guide the team around the field and that halfback position like a Cooper Cronk, Mitchell Pearce before, players like that, not all guys have that in them. And I think Luke Keary is a brilliant player. But I don't know if he's a brilliant guy to lead a team around the field. I think that he is a little magician. I think he makes things out of nothing. But you already have that with Sam Walker. You have two, I think it's this. You have 2 number 6s trying to play in the halves together. And a lot of people just don't understand. They think a half is a half, and it's not the case. But Sam Walker is too young. Robbo does not feel that Sam Walker is ready for that halfback position and that 7 jersey. So what you have is you have 2 guys that are players that are set up in making things appear out of thin air. And it isn't striking, it isn't working, all of the above. And I think that's why you heard some rumblings about a possible trade that it had happened for a week and it kind of quieted down, that Cameron Munster might be looking to come to the Roosters. Now, there's always a lot of joke that somehow the Roosters just make money appear out of thin air, and I think that's funny because I live in a country where the New York Yankees somehow make money appear out of thin air year after year after year. But you knew something wasn't right that came out. And I don't know which direction they're going to go because we see the strike and the upside of Sam Walker, but we've also seen what Luke Carey has. And I don't know if we fully 100% know how healthy yet Luke is after coming back from that injury that he had, the knee injury. So there's a lot of questions to be answered for the Roosters, but I do think, and I hate to say this because Adamas hates to think negative about himself, but I do think my pick of the Roosters winning a premiership this year, a premier trophy, flag, whatever you want to say, is something that is not going to happen. I think they're going to struggle to get into the top 4 all year, let alone for them to win the whole thing. So I'm just interested going forward of what the answer is in the halves for the Chooks and where they're going to go from there. Now, enough talk about the Roosters because I know some of you can't stand them, and that's all right. There's tons of teams I don't like in the sports world. But after last week's performances, games, whatever you want to call them, the one glaring smudge on the weekend was the performance for the New Zealand Warriors. And we talked about this last week. We talked about that Sean Johnson needed to run, blah, 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 blah. Well, they did another abysmal performance against the Sea Eagles. And again, Sean Johnson just did not take on the line, did not attack, nothing like that. And they got blown out by Manly. Well, I guess there's no good time for this, but after that match occurred, Nathan Brown approached the bigwigs at the Warriors and said that he would not be traveling with the team back to New Zealand. Now, we know that is coming up, I think, in 2 to 3 weeks, that the Warriors play their first match at Mount Smart Stadium against the Tigers. Well, that, as Nathan Brown has said later on, was going to be the writing on the wall. Either the Warriors were going to say, you know what, you just finish out the season and we'll go from there. Or they were going to say, it's time for us to end our partnership now. Well, the latter happened. Nathan Brown is a man that I respect a lot. I respect the way that he conducts interviews. He never ducks a question. He never gets really upset with the media. I think he just gets it, right? And he said that his family is the most important thing. He's got, a daughter. He's got a son. He said his son, he would just travel anywhere. But he's got a daughter that is growing older and going through school, and she doesn't want to move. And I think, sometimes you have people that the game isn't more important than family. And I think that's such a breath of fresh air, Shedheads. I think that is so cool to see. I think, especially in this country, results, business, success make up so much about if a person is successful. It's never a matter of your private life or your family life that makes you successful. It's just a matter of, how much, he makes a lot of money, all that stuff. So I was really happy to see Nathan Brown taking that stance and saying that's where he wanted to go. Nathan Brown also then dropped a bombshell saying that was it. He was never going to coach again. He's hoping to work in administration or work overseeing to protect coaches, maybe in the Tim Sheen's type of role with a club. But he just said his days of that grind of being a head coach, he's done with it. Now, let's look 5 years from now if that's still the case. But for right now, that is where he is leaning towards. Now, that also leaves an opening now for the Warriors, and this has been filled by club legend Stacey Jones. Now, I've never seen Stacey Jones play live. I've seen plenty of clips. But I guess Stacey Jones went into the sheds and ripped a little bit of paint off the wall, saying that it wasn't Warriors football, it wasn't acceptable, that they needed to shore some things up and they needed to take care of business. And truthfully, I think the Warriors have needed a boot in their ass for a while. And I hate saying it that way. I don't think you could tell your kiddos that ass means a donkey. But they've needed that boot planted there for a while. I know, and the biggest thing I'm curious about is if Stacey Jones tells Sean Johnson he can't come back on the bus unless he runs the ball this week. And I'm interested to see that. Sean Johnson had said how much he's looked up to Stacey Jones. So I'm really curious to see if Stacey Jones being appointed as the coach is going to bring out the best in Sean Johnson. I don't know if the best in Sean Johnson we'll ever see again. But we do know that Stacey Jones is taking over the team and has said that he is ready to see what he can do with these guys and see if he can get some results. So a lot of things. I will tell you one thing. I hope success for all parties involved. I hope Nathan Brown finds that gig that he's looking for. I really hope Stacey Jones is successful with the Warriors. And I hope that the Warriors just get a little bit of joy by being able to go back home here in the very, very near future. So I know that that's calling to them. So sad but happy, I guess, at the same time is what this story is. Well, Shedheads, Taps has finally been played for the West Tigers. And I don't know if you're still hearing that haunting bugle sound, but it's been played. And after 3.5 years and no finals appearances, Michael Maguire has been shown the door for the West Tigers. Now, you remember, if you look back some of these older tapes, older podcasts, older episodes, you'll have heard me say time and time again that Madge should have been moved on from last season. At the end of last season, they should have moved him. And then when this season started, I said that I would be surprised if he made it past round 4. Well, your Shedadamas was wrong there. But it has finally happened. They have pulled the card, told Madge that he doesn't have to return back. And I will tell you something. I will tell you, Shedheads, that I think Madge Maguire's downfall began when he benched Benji Marshall, when the Tigers were going all right, because he just didn't think Benji was doing and putting the time in at defense. And I know time heals all wounds, but I know Benji was hot about that in the beginning. And I think deep down he still is. I think Benji Marshall was just smart enough to say all the right things. But I think that really put a lot of confusion in that side. Because I think as I can remember, he benched Benji after the Tigers had won a match. It wasn't after they'd lost. It was after they'd won a match. And instead of coaching him up and telling him a little bit more of what he wanted, he pulled Benji. And I don't think Madge was ever the same in the players' eyes or in a lot of fans' eyes after he did that move. I think it's something that stayed with him, and I think it is something that probably finally was that tiny hole in the boat that filled up and finally sunk it. Now, with Madge being moved on, let's just put it this way. Brett Camarley has been named the interim coach. And Camarley was an ex-player in the league. I think he's been coaching one of the women's sides. So he's got a little bit of a passion, definitely, for the game. I saw an interview with him after he had been named, and he seemed quite excited. I just really have a big question right now. And my question is, does Madge's acts, does his being moved on have lasting implications with some of the players in this player group? Jackson Hastings has said that he came to the club because of Madge. There are some players that really, really believe in him. And then at the same time, again, he had something in for David Nafaluma lately. And Nafaluma hadn't been put back in the side for the last few weeks. Well, it's already been named. Camarley said Nafaluma will be in the side this week. So I just think there was a lot of drama. I think we watched, the 4-episode special Inside the Tigers or whatever that they had last year, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of felt wrong all the time. So he is gone now, and now Tim Sheens has come out and said that they want a coach at the West Tigers that is going to help the Pathways program and the young players to come through and to make their way up into the top grade side. He's not really named anybody, but everyone knows that Cameron Ciraldo is probably the number one coach that is being pinpointed by the West Tigers to come in there and to change all of this up. I don't know if they're going to get him. I know that the Panthers are fighting hard to keep Cameron Ciraldo at the foot of the Blue Mountains. but that is the guy that everyone's saying is the fit to go to the West Tigers. Me personally, there's two people that I would like to see. I like to see, first off, Christian Wolf. I would love to see Christian Wolf in the NRL. I think he's a special guy. I think that he could do some really magical things with the Tigers. So Christian Wolf is my number one. And my other coach that I would really love to see is John Morris. I think if you look, the Sharks are doing some great things under Fitzy right now. But I think I think John Morris had that club heading in the right direction. And I think that, if you look at Bubba, the fullback for the Cronulla Sharks, Bubba started to fire because of John Morris. A lot of the halves that he had, Trindle, a lot of those guys loved John Morris. And he kind of raised them. He kind of brought them up. So I think that he would be a great addition if they could get him. I think that's a question if that's the direction they want to go more, if they can get him. But I think those are the two guys that I would really, really love to see. Christian Wolf and John Morris. But again, the move has finally happened. Taps is playing. The Madge era has come to an end. And the Tigers are looking anew for a new skipper. Now, those are big stories I had to break first, Shedheads. Those are stories that needed to be talked about early on before we went any farther. But now we're ready. We're ready, and I hope you're ready. Origin 1. And I've got to tell you, a lot of people have been talking about how there's just not that deep down strike and bitterness and punch-ups and all that stuff in Origin. And I agree. There's something about State of Origin, which is fifth gear, all gas, no brakes, let's go. That's what Origin is. And I do miss that. I do miss the physical aspects of the game. But anyway, let's go into this, and we'll talk about that in a second. State of Origin, Game 1, Maroons 16, Blues 10. I told you last week, Shedheads, and I'm going to double down on this. As I looked on paper at these two teams, the cohesion of the Queensland Maroons, to me, was what was going to take them over the top. I tipped Queensland because of that. There was just something about how it was just business as usual. That the guys that should be there were there. There wasn't any type of fidgeting with it, major lineup changes or anything like that. And I didn't see that from the Blues. Freddie putting in Daniel Tupou instead of the Fox. Jake Trbojevic not being left out of the side. I don't think that you really, really understand the importance of those two guys in that Blues squad. I just don't think that people get that. How important the Fox's kind of bravado, his humor, and Jake's hard nose, I'll do anything for a team, how important that is. And the crazy part about it is if the Fox and Trbojevic were playing for the Maroons, they would have been picked. They would have just been picked. Because there's an allegiance and loyalty that the Maroons show in camp, which gets them, I think, to play harder for one another. And there's a bond that's there. There's a strong bond between Queensland, which I don't usually feel with the Blues. So, all that being said, after, Jack Whiten, who I think played maybe one of his best matches I've ever seen the guy play, scoring the first try, getting the Blues on the board, he was the player of the match in the Blues jersey. It wasn't Nathan Cleary. It was easily, to me, Jack Whiten. And he laid down the law physically, and he did it from the opening whistle to the end. And I have to tell you, Jack Whiten's never been one of my favorite players, but Jack Whiten really rose, to me, a lot in my book, the way that he played that Origin match. And he wasn't even playing in a position that you would say that is his favorite position. I'm saying he's a half. So Jack Whiten played really, really well and got the Blues on the board. And that was pretty much I would say that was one of probably the biggest highlight of the match was Jack Whiten's play. for the Blues. Because after that point, to me, Cameron Munster took over the game. And I can't say that Cameron Munster had an incredible first half, but when he got back in the sheds, got with Billy, got with the coaches, I think it was just reinstilled in him, go do what you do. Be a larrikin. Be a guy that is a scalawag. Run at the line. Take your chances. Play. Lift your side. Lift your side by the way that you can go against the line, carefree, dive into it, get the pass and the offload out. I think that is exactly what he did in the second half. And the guy is infectious. Cameron Munster is infectious. Never been the biggest Storm fan, but I'll tell you something. Just because I'm not the biggest fan of the club doesn't mean I don't know greatness when I see it or a great player. And since Cameron Munster has, again, everyone's talked about it, I've talked about it on this show, since he's doubled down on his health, as he's doubled down on his responsibility, and changed his body coming back into camp this year, he's been a totally different player. And his good is just gotten better. And we saw it. I'm saying State of Origin, the guy took over the match in so many different ways. But Billy Slater said after the match, it's all the little moments. And that's what we saw. From Valentine Holmes coming out of nowhere to kicking the ball out of play and stopping a try for the Blues. That it was just the little moments always that saw Queensland just lift their game just enough to stay on top of the Blues. Now, the other thing to me that was just awesome was the breath of fresh air for the Maroons club. The Maroons, young guns, as you would say. I love the guns thing, right? Selwyn Cabo, Reuben Cotter, Harry Grant, Patrick Kerrigan, Jeremiah Nanai. These guys are young. You could call them the kid line, whatever you want to say. They played exceptionally well and exceptionally well together. And I'll say something about this team, this group of young players. All the talk last year and the last couple years is that we were about ready to see a New South Wales Blues dynasty for the next, 10 years. That the Blues have everything in place to go on a run possibly just like the Maroons did when they won their 8 in a row, right? I'm going to say this right now. With this crop of young players that are coming into the side right now for Queensland, I think you can just flush that last statement. I think that the Origin Series for the next 10 years is going to be a back and forth tug of war. And I think that every year we go into it, we'll have truthfully no idea which side on paper is the better side. And that's why I think you should be nervous if you're a Blues fan, because Queensland's chemistry is what takes them through the wins a lot of times. And the Blues have to somehow find that chemistry. And I just don't feel a chemistry about them. No matter how much I like Brad Fittler, but I just don't feel a chemistry about them. And then I'm going to tell you something right now. I told you I wasn't the hugest Storm fan, right? I know greatness when I see it. The club is incredible. They're a great, great club. From the big three back in the day to, the players now. And to bellyache, right? What they have at the Melbourne Storm is special. But I've never been the biggest fan of Billy Slater. Maybe because I haven't been a huge fan of the Storm. Billy the Kid, to me, is always been more of a nuisance than anything. Great player. Not saying not a great player, but kind of a nuisance because somehow he was always going to will the club to doing some special things, right? I will say that I have done a 180-degree turn on Billy Slater. I think Billy Slater now is going to go down as a very, 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 very good NRL coach. Last night, I'm saying this morning, I guess you can say, I'm sitting at 8:30 in the morning, and I watched DCE and Billy Slater's interview, right, with the press. And I don't know if there's ever been a time where a respect for an individual has gone through the roof after I watched the way that he conducted himself in that interview, the way that he talked about his team, his players. He knew backstories about his players. He knew where they came from. He knew what different things meant to them. And then when he did the interview with Yvonne Sampson, I just want to say this right now. Billy Slater has gone from a guy that was a nemesis to me to one of my favorite people in the game right now. And it's because I think I've learned a little bit more about him. I know he loves the ponies and loves horses and all that, but I'm going to say something right now. Blues, no matter how much I like Freddie, if Slater wants to stay at Origin for a while, the Maroons are only going to get better, and that's not good. I deep down think that he's going to want that challenge of an NRL side. I don't know where he's going to be. He might be waiting for Bellyache to retire and to be named the Melbourne Storm head coach. I don't think you can go wrong with that at all if you're the Storm. But I will say that guy, the Maroons are in very, very, very good hands going forward because of Billy Slater. And so I think that, when you have a coach like that, his coaching and the way that he makes those guys have pride in that jersey is enough to help you steal at least one game in a series. And when we're talking a 3-game series, that is dangerous if you're the other team. That's very, very dangerous. So, Origin 2 is going to be on Sunday, June 26th. You're going to have to figure that out, no matter if you're in Australia, New Zealand, America, Ireland, I don't care. We all know that it's a little bit different everywhere we're at because the time changes, the time zones, all that type of stuff. But it is in Perth, and I'm going to say something right now. Game over here soon. If they don't really change, I would instantly name Jake and the Fox in my side for the Blues going forward. But Freddie's got some work to do, and I'm not 100% sure that he can. Because Game 3 is back at Suncorp Stadium, and we know how different that team plays at Suncorp. Plain and simple. It's not even close, is it? So, incredible Origin match. We did not have... I just didn't feel the intensity in the match due to animosity, hatred, whatever you want to say. But I will say it was a brilliant match. The Blues almost tied it at the death. But I cannot wait for Origin 2. But I'm very, very interested to see what happens and what the transition is between Game 1 and 2 for both sides and how well Billy Slater takes the Maroons in Game 2. Now let's go into round 14 and what we've got transpiring and about ready to occur again. Because of Origin, round 14 doesn't start till Friday morning, I guess you could say, Friday night, whatever. Well, we've got Dragons versus the Cowboys. I'm definitely going with the Cows again. I know the Dragons have been playing a lot better footy lately, but I'm going with the Cows. Saturday, Rabbitohs versus the Titans. I'm saying, there was talk that Latrell could be back, but Latrell's got COVID now. He's probably out now for 2 weeks, so I'm taking the Titans over the Rabbitohs. Storm versus the Roosters. Going Storm. Even without Munster, I think they'll be fine if he doesn't decide to play because of Origin. Raiders versus the Broncos. I know the Green Machine has been coming along, but I am going to take the Broncs over the Raiders. Sea Eagles versus the Tigers. I don't know if Brett Comorley in a week can get the Tigers playing the brand of footy he wants them to play. I think the Sea Eagles are full of play. I think they're ready to make a statement piece against the Tigers, so I'm taking the Sea Eagles. Sunday, Panthers versus the Knights. I know the armor is starting to still get a little bit dull. I don't know if even Kalen Ponga will be playing because of State of Origin. I don't think it really matters. Going with the Panthers. Sharks versus the Warriors to close out Sunday. Come on. Stacey Jones is there. But again, a lot like Brett Comorley, I don't know what we're going to see difference-wise in a week. Now, if he gets Sean Johnson to start running, that could be something totally different. But at this point, I'm taking the Sharks over the Warriors. And then finally, Monday night or Monday afternoon, whatever you want to say it, Eels versus the Bulldogs. I do not see an upset brewing with the Bulldogs. I am taking the Eagles. Now, let's do our transition to the other game of footy, Aussie Rules football. Let's go on the mark. Your Shedadamas went 3 for 6. We know we didn't have all the clubs this week. A lot of teams have buys, just like we have buys coming up for this next round. But Cats 83, Bulldogs 70. I took the Dogs. I really thought they were going to be able to come over the top. They made it competitive. But again, I think this Geelong team, Chris Scott's team, coming into their own, Cats get the victory. Crows 88, Eagles 57. Like I say, hey, you're welcome, Adelaide Crows. The Eagles fell on your schedule just at the right time. Suns 109, Roos 47. Whew, I got to tell you something. Those Roos can make teams look good, can't they? Man, they can make teams look good. Swans 73, Demons 61. We're getting ready to do a deeper dive into that match. But the Swannies getting the victory over the Dees. A lot of things to talk about there. Magpie 72, Hawks 68. Hawks really pushed the Pies, but the Pies hold ground, hold serve, and get the victory over the Hawks. Dockers 99, Lions 85. Really good match. Another one we're going to do a deep dive in, but the Dockers getting the victory over the Lions. Now, even without an on-fire Buddy, it's Buddy Franklin, due to his dust-up with Trent Cotchin, the Sydney Swans showed the competition that their flag, the Sydney Swans showed, again, what am I trying to say, that the competition, the flag, are well within their reach. And I think that is something I don't know if any of us thought, that these aspirations for the Swannies would really be something they could actually go out and get. And they proved with this performance last week that's the case. Now, without Buddy Franklin in there, the forwards of Sam Reed and Logan McDonald both kicked 3 goals apiece. And they were the ones that really kind of drove the Swannies to kind of push forward. And I don't know, when a big player like Buddy Franklin is out, I don't think you know who's going to actually pick up the baton and run with it. But I'll tell you, all that being said, to me the most eye-opening thing that happened with the match is that the Dees jumped out to a 26-point lead, and the Swans didn't panic. And to me, that's where you see that a team has got something going on. There was no panic at all from the Swannies. And they just stayed the course. They kind of rode the wave out a little bit, and then they went to doing what they needed to do to win the game. A lot of back and forth in the first half. You'd almost think that it was a track meet, how both clubs are going back and forth. Return serve, back and forth, up and down the field. And then in the second half, it was a real tussle. It was a wrestling match. It was just who's going to impose their will over the other side the most. And it all came down to me where the steal comes in. And to me, the steal is when a team finally sees that it's time to put the sword to it, finish this off. And it wasn't the Dees who did it, it was the Swans. And in the fourth quarter, the Swans kicked 4 goals to the Dees 1, and that was it. That's the difference in the game right there. That final frame domination by the Bloods showed me that they're real. And I don't know why anybody ever would pick against the Swans. They're a team that shows year in and year out usually that they're going to fight you till the end. I know they're not a Melbourne club, and all right, they used to be South Melbourne, I know. But I think they don't get the respect a lot of times a lot of teams get. But they're good. And I think with Buddy coming back, I think he's going to be beyond motivated. I will tell you this right now. The Swans have top 4 in their eyes or in their vision, and I think they can really get there. I really do. Now, I know all this in the game of footy depends on who can stay healthy, but the Swans proved a lot to me on that victory over the Dees. And also now, I told you last week, Shedheads, I told you last week, I am really curious to see, now that a chink in the armor has been shown for the Demons, what does the rest of the competition do? And will there be a hangover? And I bet on them. I bet on the Dees to get the victory over the Swans. They didn't. There's some situations going on there. There's some problems underneath the surface. I don't know if it's in the defensive structure, but something's going on, and you only need one team to exploit it for the rest of the competition to jump on the back of that. So, great victory for the Swans, and some real questions to be answered by the Dees. Now, after demolishing the reigning premiers last week, the Dockers claimed another top contender pelt. Not belt, pelt, shedheads. By beating the Lions and hoisting that pelt high in the sky to show that they got themselves another big-time team and took another one home. I got to tell you, I can't read Fremantle, or I couldn't for a little bit. You know, they don't even have Nat Fife yet in the side. But this win moves the Dockers into a tie with the Lions for second place, and within one game of the struggling Melbourne Demons right now. And I cannot believe, after winning 17 in a row, that I just said the phrase struggling Melbourne Demons. But it is the case. They say defense wins championships. They say it over here in the divided states. They say it all around the world, right? Defense wins championships. Well, we got to see that firsthand because the Fremantle D was the thing that took them over the top. And they were in rare form. And they held one of the most destructive offensive sides of the competition in the Brisbane Lions to a below average score. Something that they're not used to being, they're not used to that happening to them. The Lions are a team that can impose their will and usually get points at will. And the Dockers showed that's not happening at all. It was a Dockers second half surge to me that was the thing that took them over the top. And it allowed them to take a 23-point lead over the Lions and then hold off a late rally with that defense, right? The Lions did get within 11, but, the Dockers, again, imposed their will defensively. And I can't believe I'm saying that because if you think about Fremantle last season compared to this season, we would have never used that term. But they did. Now, there was some strike with the boys. The Dockers did have a little bit of an offensive outburst. Bailey Banfield, Rory Lobb, and Michael Frederick, they each kicked a combined, not each, but they combined for 10 goals. And that's huge. I'm saying when you have players that can do that and get, three guys getting you 10 goals, that's big. That's big. And when you have a team that is a defensive stalwart, to get that offense from, more than just one guy, we're relying on their buddy Franklin to get it. That's the thing that kind of gets you going. But again, to me, it shows for sure that Fremantle has a chance at the flag, that they're playing good enough footy. As long as they don't go Sybil on me and 1 week they go up, 1 week they go down, they're going to be in it in the end, for sure. And again, the Dees, you're shaky right now. You're shaky. And they always say you find out about a club not when everything's going well, but what happens to that club when they start to, when the waters start getting rough. A lot of you will not understand that. It's an old NFL thing about a coach over here. Look it up. The waters, the sign of a good captain is, anyway, I'm not going into that. But we'll continue with the shaky ground right now, Shedheads, because it doesn't get any better for the Dees. Because in a week where the Dees have lost now 2 in a row, an off-field altercation, I guess we could say, a lot of people call it a dust-up, and some people say it was a straight-up brawl, happened between Stephen May and Jake Melksham. And when you have two players fighting like that, you've got a little bit of a situation. And pretty much the lowest dig a player can give to another player happened where May actually said to Melksham, and I quote, "If you had played in the grand final, we would have lost." Ouch. There's nothing worse than a player that is held out and not allowed to suit up with his team and play in the grand final or any championship game, right? But to have a guy say that to you and a teammate, I guess saying something about your mom or your wife could be right up there, but that's probably number 3 of it's time to go. And because of that, Jake laid him out. He put him down. And I think, to me, the crazy thing about the story is both guys It was an alcohol-infused rage or dust-up. And May was not supposed to be drinking at all because he was in concussion protocol. I think the team showed where they lied with this or how they saw it because May got a 1-game ban imposed by the team. Now, all this is great and stuff, but the hotel that the fight broke out with still hasn't been apologized to, where they were having dinner. They're still standing up going, hey, when are we getting our apology for you two idiots going toe-to-toe at our establishment? I don't know. I when you start hearing guys fighting, the captain has to start talking about it. I think that there could be some under-the-table real situations with the Dees. We know that there was some talk earlier in the season about the coach and drinking with players and all this type of stuff. I don't know what's going on inside that shed. This is called outside the shed. How do I know what's going on inside that shed? But we'll really have to see because they've got the Pies this week. And I know the Pies are definitely on fire. The Pies are playing very, very well. If it's 3 in a row, we've got some real situations here. We've got a real situation going on with the Belvin Demons. So, again, I love a story that might have, how should I say, a little bit of tentacles laying off it because it might be grabbing at the future here. So we'll have to see down the track. Now, let's go into round 13 and some of these matches that we've got. We've got a barn burner to kick us off this week. Power versus the Tigers. These two clubs, and they go head to head. It's some of the most exciting footy we get to see. I'm going to go with the Tigers still. I think that they're kind of rounding into form. I told you one of my picks was the Tigers were going to do some things this year, so I'm not going to get off of that yet. I think the Tigers beat the Power. Friday, Blues versus the Bombers. There's no way that I'm picking the Bombers over the Blues. I think the Blues get the victory there. Saturday, Hawks versus the Dockers. I was hedging one way, but I'm going to stay with them. I think the Dockers gets the victory there. I think they win that. A game that could be the game of the round, Saints versus the Lions. I'm going with the Lions there. I think the Pride get back together, and they make a statement over St. Kilda. Sunday, Giants versus the Roos. Really? Am I still picking these games? Let me look at my yeah, I guess so. Giants easily over the Roos. Sunday, another one that could be the match of the round to close it out. Demons versus the Magpies. And I'm taking the Pies. I'm riding the hot team. I'm thinking with May out and the week of a little bit of turmoil then, I think sets up well for the Pies to pounce on the Dees and get the victory. Now the guns for this week, we've got some real winners. And I'm starting off with my number one gun, the guy that to me took over State of Origin last night, this morning, whatever you want to say, Cameron Munster, 198 running meters, 1 line break, 7 tackle breaks, 22 tackles made, 1 interception, 269 kicking meters. The Scalawag showed his full chops, was even named the man of the match. So great job for Cameron Munster. My number 2, we're going Green Machine. I'm going down to the nation's capital. Xavier Savage, 1 try, 203 running meters, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 3 tackle breaks, and 6 tackles made. Again, some of the youth at the nation's capital coming through. A real fun, exciting player in Xavier Savage. And then 3, Michael Frederick, 3 goals. Michael Frederick of the Fremantle Dockers, who has been suspended 1 week because of a little bit of alcohol in his 6 days. Okay, little things. That doesn't still mean that he can't be my gun. 3 goals, 18 disposals, 14 kicks, 4 handballs, 10 marks, 2 tackles, 411 meters gained. A great performance by Michael Frederick, and one of the reasons that the Dockers are now driving for a flag. Now, as we go outside the bubble, I'm going to start off with a guy that we talked about last week, Rafa Nadal. I said that Rafa getting the victory over Djokovic was big, but everything fell in place with him. Zverev injuring his ankle, so Rafa didn't have to go 4 or 5 sets, even though he played an hour and a half first set match against Zverev. And then, he got Casper Ruud. And come on, are you kidding me? Casper Ruud's idolized Rafa Nadal. You think Casper Ruud is going to get his first Grand Slam victory in Rafa's backyard? No way on God's green earth was that going to happen. And Rafa, in 2 hours and 18 minutes, beat Ruud 6-3, 6-3, 6-0 to lift his 14th championship. And I will say this. I've told you, Shedheads, over and over again, I'm a Fed fan. I'm a big Roger Federer fan. But there's nothing you can say about Rafa, right? There's probably not a guy with a bigger heart in the game. When word comes out that he's taking injections, deadening his foot because the pain is so bad, and pretty much playing with a dead foot, and what else can you say? To be playing with that type of pain where you're taking injections and you beat a guy in Casper Ruud who has been playing some pretty damn dominant tennis as well. Like I said, I don't like calling anybody in tennis the GOAT, but you have to say there's not been a bigger competitor in the history of the game more than Rafa Nadal. So congratulations, Rafa, for lifting your 14th trophy at the French Open and bringing your Grand Slam total to 22. Now, tonight, going on right now, and actually, Shedheads, when I get off with you, I'm going to go take a walk with Mrs. Shedadamas and then come back and watch probably the second half of the Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics throwdown. My godmother definitely turned the spike on me when she called up and laughed me into oblivion after Golden State lost Game 1 against the Celtics, which is fascinating because my godmother is a Laker fan, so I don't understand what's going on there. But it's going to be an interesting series. I think, personally, I thought Golden State was going to win in 6 games. I think, to me, that the Celtics' legs are going to start to show, and I think the Warriors are going to run them right off the track. So I still have Golden State winning this series, even though they did split in San Francisco. So, interesting. You're probably watching it already right now, Shedheads, but I've got the Warriors beating the Celtics in 6 games. And then you might have saw we've already got the first team to make it to the Stanley Cup Final. A sweep by the Colorado Avalanche over the Edmonton Oilers. I did not see a sweep. A lot of people thought that the Lanch were definitely playing the best hockey of the two clubs. Maybe the best hockey of any team. So they're through. But I will say something right now. And the reason that I'm going to say that the Lanch do not win the Stanley Cup Final is because the Lanch, to me, are like a fine European sports car. You pick your own, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini. You've got to run it every day. You can't let the oil sit in it. You can't let the gas sit in it. You've got to run it, right? And I think this layover, this delay in play, waiting for the Eastern Conference Final to be figured out, is going to hurt the Lanch. And I'm telling you, if they go toe-to-toe against Tampa, the 2-time defending champion, there's no way they're beating Tampa. If a Tampa team has been playing nonstop hockey and go right into a series, because they're going to steal Game 1, and then the rest will be history. So, very interested to watch what happens, what transpires here with the rest of the Eastern Conference Final. I had Tampa in 6, so my buddy Sean, love you, Shawnee, but he had to come to Jesus a little bit with me and admit that I was right, because I said the Bolts were going to win both games back in Tampa after going down 2-0 to the Rangers up in the Big Apple. So, a lot of matches, a lot of games coming up. Shedheads, I hope you enjoyed Origin last night. I hope you're recharged, you get your electrolytes in you, because you got a day off for the NRL side, but you can piggyback that and go right to watching Port Adelaide and Richmond tonight. Some really great matches this week. Really excited for it. But letting you guys know, Shedheads, there will not be an episode of Outside the Sheds next week. I will be actually traveling to the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska, my yearly pilgrimage. I have not gone for 2 years because of the great COVID. So I begin my pilgrimage on Wednesday to get up there for the series that starts on Friday. So you will not hear your Shedadamus probably for a week. We'll see about getting an episode recorded when I'm up there or getting something done. But we'll see. We'll have to see. So you guys, I might let you guys just say, damn, I missed the Shedadamus. Man, I can't wait to hear the Shedda. Either way, Shedheads, stay out of trouble. Can't wait to talk to you guys next. Have fun this weekend. If you're down south, definitely use your air conditioning because it's bloody hot. But until next week, stay out of trouble. Don't get caught. This has been Outside the Sheds. See ya.
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL, AFL, and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.